There's a hidden place that no human has ever ruled, a world full of terrifying monsters, demons, and deadly creatures. But what is this place? Who created it? And what secrets are buried inside? Get ready to uncover the truth in today's story. The story begins with a girl named Dress, who had been hiding inside a cave for 2 days. From her hiding spot, she saw a plane landing at the airport. As soon as the president stepped out of the aircraft, Dress took her sniper and eliminated him with a precise shot. In the next scene, we meet Levi, a young man writing a poem in his notebook. Just then, he received a message on his phone, summoning him to the base. Without delay, Levi arrived at the base and met an officer named Bart. Bart looked at him and asked, "What do you think? Who am I?" Levi, noticing the surroundings, replied, "Since this is a Marine base, I assume you must be a high-ranking Marine officer." Bart smirked and said, "I want to send you on a top-secret mission for a year." Without hesitation, Levi responded, "I'm ready for it." Meanwhile, Dress visited her father, Mill, and informed him that the mission was completed. Hearing this, Mill was pleased. Dress handed him a bullet casing and said, "There's still one kill that keeps haunting me." Mill reassured her, "That's exactly why I always take a bullet casing from you, to help you let go of the past." Dress then told her father, "Dad, I'm about to leave for another mission, and I won't be back for a whole year." Mill nodded and replied, "I know, my child." In the next scene, Levi was seen aboard a military plane. After reaching the designated location, he jumped off with a parachute and landed deep inside a dense jungle. He immediately started his journey on foot, walking for 6 hours before reaching an abandoned site, where he encountered a man named JD. JD looked at him and said, "Friend, you've arrived just in time. It's been a whole year since I've seen another human here." He then led Levi to a massive watchtower and explained, "This tower has all the necessary backup. You'll be stationed here for the next year." Levi glanced at another watchtower in the distance and asked, "What about that one?" JD replied, "Just like you, there's someone stationed there as well. But remember, you must never communicate with them. Your only duty is to guard this location." Levi, curious, asked, "But what's down there?" JD's expression turned serious. "This place is known as the Gateway to Hell. It houses terrifying creatures beyond imagination. That's why this location has been monitored for years. That's why we have to report every week to confirm that we're still alive. You'll find all the necessary supplies here, but every 2 days you must check your weapons. And if any monster tries to escape, you have to eliminate it immediately." Levi, still trying to process everything, asked, "How do you know all of this?" JD replied, "The watcher before me passed down this information. This system has been running for years, and it's one of the biggest secrets, so classified that even the president doesn't know about it. This entire place has been kept hidden from the world. Below us, there are multiple underground chambers, and if they get destroyed, this entire place will collapse. This pit is called the Gorge, and your mission for the next year is to keep it safe at all costs." Now that Levi understood everything, JD gave him a briefing on all the weapons available. The next day, JD was preparing to leave. A helicopter arrived to pick him up, but before boarding, his identity was verified. However, for some unknown reason, JD was suddenly executed on the spot. The authorities even informed Bart about this incident. Meanwhile, Levi started inspecting the tower, ensuring all the weapons and chambers were intact and functioning properly. It became his routine to check everything daily. Using the radio, he tried communicating with the people stationed in the opposite tower. However, they only responded with necessary work-related information and avoided unnecessary conversations. One day, while exploring the tower, Levi came across a section that listed all the past watchers and their assigned duties. To his surprise, all of them had been Marine officers, stationed here since the 1940s. Then, one night, Levi heard a strange noise coming from the opposite tower. Curious, he grabbed his binoculars and looked through them, only to discover that the watcher in the other tower was a girl. This shocked him, as he had never expected to see a woman in this place. The girl noticed him too. That night, Levi had a terrifying nightmare and woke up with a jolt. As he looked outside, he saw the opposite tower's light was on. Curious, he grabbed his binoculars and spotted the same girl sitting alone, looking just as bored as he was. It was Dress, and she was celebrating her birthday all by herself. Noticing Levi watching her, Dress tried to communicate with him. To get his attention, she fired a bullet, which startled him. Realizing she was asking for his name, he responded. Then, holding up a piece of paper, she wrote, "It's my birthday today, so I can break the rules and do whatever I want." Levi smiled and told her his name. He decided to join her little celebration, which made Dress incredibly happy. She started playing music and dancing, urging Levi to join her. But Levi chuckled and said, "I'm a terrible dancer." In response, Dress dramatically smashed a bottle, and Levi, amused, showed off his shooting skills instead. However, as the night went on, Dress, now a little drunk, kept pushing him to take more daring shots. Suddenly, she stopped and said in a serious tone, "Something is coming from below." Levi turned to look. His heart pounded. From the depths of the gorge, an army of terrifying monsters was crawling up. They were half human, half-demonic creatures emerging in large numbers. Without wasting a second, Levi opened fire, taking down as many as he could. But then, a huge explosion erupted inside one of the mines, causing even more monsters to swarm upwards. Realizing the danger, Dress and Levi joined forces, shooting relentlessly at the approaching creatures. One by one, the monsters began falling back into the abyss. But then, Dress gasped. One of the monsters had climbed onto her tower. She managed to take it down, but Levi saw something terrifying. Hundreds more monsters were gathering near her tower. Without hesitation, he grabbed his machine gun and unleashed a storm of bullets, mowing them down. However, the relentless attack triggered another massive explosion, and Dress was injured in the blast. Determined to protect her, Levi continued firing non-stop, obliterating every last monster until the area was finally cleared. By the time the sun began to rise, the battle was over. Dress, exhausted and wounded, collapsed unconscious. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. The next morning, Rasha regained consciousness and began treating her wounds. Smiling, she told Levi, "This was the best birthday I've ever had." Levi chuckled at her words. Then, he went down and secured the mines to prevent any more monsters from emerging. To prevent more monsters from emerging, Levi reinforced the mines. Meanwhile, Rasha kept an eye on him, ensuring he stayed safe. By now, December had arrived, and snow was falling. Rasha was feeling quite bored, but when she stepped outside, she was pleasantly surprised. Levi had put up a Christmas tree just for her. This thoughtful gesture impressed her, and they celebrated Christmas by building a snowman together. Time passed, and despite the distance between their towers, they grew closer with each passing day, playing games and keeping each other company. 2 months went by, and February arrived. Levi had been struggling to sleep due to the constant sounds of monsters and recurring nightmares. One night, he stepped outside and saw Rasha sitting alone, looking sad. She told him, "I'm really lonely. I wish you were here with me." Now, how could a guy refuse a girl's request? Levi decided to go to her, but it wasn't going to be easy. The next day, he took out a bazooka missile, removed all the explosives, and tied a rope around it. Rasha watched as he prepared everything. Then, Levi launched the missile toward her tower. Rasha quickly grabbed the rope from it and secured it tightly. After some effort, Levi began making his way across, hanging from the rope. Finally, Levi reached the other side, and when Rasha came to meet him, both of them felt shy. Rasha then told him, "I've made rabbit pie." Levi complimented her, but then added, "Your eyes are really beautiful." Rasha laughed and said, "You're so dirty from all that climbing. You should take a bath." Levi agreed and went to clean up. When he came out, he realized his clothes were placed far away. With no choice, he walked forward without them, and Rasha, watching through a camera, burst into laughter. Later, as they sat down for dinner, they talked about their sniper skills, complimenting each other's marksmanship. Levi then said, "Do you know what I'm thinking right now?" Rasha smirked and replied, "Yeah, you're thinking about how much fun you'll have with me." Levi laughed and said, "You're absolutely right, but I was also thinking about other things, like whether this place is even real and what exactly those monsters are." Rasha then shared her past. "My dad was a sniper. He trained me to be just like him, but I always felt guilty about killing people. He told me that I should focus on the job and not think about the people I eliminate." Levi nodded and said, "Yeah, I do the same, but there's one person I can never forget, my first target. I killed a woman, and her dreams still haunt me. I felt so alone that I ended up here." As the night deepened, they danced together. Rasha smiled and said, "You're not that bad of a dancer after all." Levi grinned. "Maybe you're right." They grew even closer, and that night, Rasha was the happiest she had ever been. By morning, Levi told her about his passion for writing poetry, but soon, it was time for him to leave. As he started to go, Rasha suddenly leaned in and kissed him. Just as Levi was making his way back, a sudden explosion hit the tower. The rope snapped, and Levi plummeted into the deep abyss below. Without hesitation, Rasha grabbed her parachute, packed her things, and jumped after him. She landed in a fast-flowing river below and continued moving forward, determined to find him. Rasha quickly regained her balance while Levi was left hanging from the cliff's edge. Just then, he noticed a monster approaching him. Without wasting a second, he shot it down, causing it to fall. But before he could catch his breath, a tree-like monster grabbed him. Just in time, Rasha arrived and fired several bullets at the monster, freeing Levi. He looked at her and asked, "Did you really come all the way here for me?" Rasha smiled and replied, "Of course, you would have done the same, right?" As they moved forward, a group of monsters riding horses suddenly attacked them. Shocked, they immediately fought back, taking down each of the creatures. But when Levi inspected their clothing, he made a shocking discovery. These monsters were actually Marines who had arrived here back in 1940. This made Levi suspect that this place must have been created sometime after 1940, and that the soldiers who once lived here had turned into these creatures. As they continued their journey, they stumbled upon a massive abandoned city, destroyed long ago. To avoid further monster attacks, they took shelter in an old church. Inside, they found several dead bodies. Looking closely, they noticed grenade pins in their hands, meaning they had taken their own lives. But what could have scared them so much that they chose death over survival? Before they could process it, a giant spider-like monster attacked them. They immediately started shooting, but soon, more monsters appeared. Realizing they were outnumbered, they triggered an explosion and made their escape. At the base of a mountain, they found a mysterious door and stepped inside. What they found was shocking. It was an underground lab. Exploring further, they discovered what looked like an abandoned research facility. It seemed that scientists had once conducted experiments here, but they had all perished during their research. Rasha then noticed a generator and switched it on. As the power came back, a film started playing. In the video, a scientist named Maya explained that this footage was recorded in 1946. She spoke about Robert Oppenheimer, who was developing nuclear bombs for America. Around the same time, they had discovered a way to create biochemical weapons. Maya explained that they had successfully created these weapons, but then a massive earthquake struck. Their entire facility was destroyed, and the deadly gas they had developed was released into the air. As a result, everything, humans, animals, even plants, began mutating, turning into monstrous creatures. To prevent the spread of this disaster, they sealed off the entire area. Hearing this, Levi and Rasha finally understood why the government had kept this place a secret. Levi turned to Rasha and said, "We need to find a way out of here." They soon found a computer, but what shocked them the most was that it wasn't from the past. It was from 2021. It belonged to a military corporation called Dark Lich. Realization hit them. Dark Lich was the reason we were sent here, Levi muttered. Digging through the computer's files, they discovered that Dark Lich had been sending people here for years. The company had been using prisoners and abandoned individuals as test subjects for their cruel experiments. They wanted to turn these monsters into super soldiers. And then, they came across an even more horrifying truth. Back in 1940, the government had planned to destroy this entire place with a nuclear missile. The government had initially planned to destroy this place with a nuclear missile, but for some reason, they never went through with it. Instead, the missile was deactivated and left abandoned in this very location. However, Levi discovered a terrifying detail. If the jammers keeping the missile inactive were destroyed, the nuke would detonate, wiping out everything in a 4.2-kilometer radius. This was likely a failsafe to ensure that no one would ever uncover the truth. As Levi and Rasha prepared to leave, Levi turned to her and said, "Listen, if I don't make it out of here with you, just remember, I really enjoyed being with you." Rasha looked into his eyes, and in that moment, they shared a deep, passionate kiss before stepping forward toward their escape. Levi reasoned, "If others have come here before us, they must have left a way out." With that thought, they continued searching for an exit. Just then, the horse-riding monster returned and hurled a rope at Rasha, tying her up and dragging her away. Levi immediately chased after them. When he finally caught up, he saw the monster had pulled Rasha into a deep pit. She was struggling, enduring excruciating pain as the creature tormented her. Through clenched teeth, Rasha spat, "I swear, I'll kill you right here." As the monster lunged to strike her, she countered with a fierce attack, breaking free and engaging in an intense fight. But the creature was stronger. It grabbed her and slammed her to the ground. Just as it was about to finish her off, Levi arrived in the nick of time and took the monster down. Panting, they looked at each other, relieved. Levi then realized something shocking. This monster was the same one that had first appeared as the Watcher, protecting the tower. It had been here since 1940. With no time to waste, they pressed forward toward the surface. Their path led them to a massive tree, its thick branches covered in thousands of sleeping monsters. They had no choice but to move carefully, stepping lightly to avoid waking them. But then, Rasha accidentally stepped on one. The creature jolted awake and grabbed her. Without hesitation, Levi slashed it down, but by then, the others had already stirred. Within seconds, the entire swarm was awake, ready to attack. Thinking fast, Levi and Rasha detonated an explosive, obliterating the horde before escaping. Finally, they emerged near a garage filled with vehicles designed to transport supplies to the tower above. Levi immediately understood. They had installed cables to hoist these vehicles upward. Wasting no time, they climbed into a truck and activated the lift, ascending toward the tower. But the monsters were relentless. They swarmed behind them, chasing the vehicle as Levi and Rasha fought them off. Reaching the tower, they secured the truck to the cables and began their ascent. Hours passed as they steadily climbed higher. Then, a horrifying sight. Monsters were scaling the ropes, following them up. Levi and Rasha shot at them, but more kept coming. Seeing no other option, Levi doused the ropes in gasoline and set them ablaze. The creatures shrieked as they were engulfed in flames, falling to their doom. Finally, they reached the top. Exhausted, they stood atop the tower, but the horrifying truth of this place weighed heavily on them. Rasha turned to Levi and said, "We need to get out of here. I know a place in France. No one will ever find us there. But Levi hesitated. Before coming here, I read everything. Now that we've been down there, if we were exposed to whatever's in this place, we might be infected too. Levi explained that if they were infected, they would transform into monsters within 5 days. That meant they had to wait. If they remained unaffected, they could escape. Rasha agreed to his plan. For now, Levi and Rasha had to separate. Before parting ways, Levi looked into her eyes and said, "I love you." Rasha smiled, "I love you too." With that, Levi climbed back into his tower using the rope. The next day, his radio crackled to life. This time, Bert herself was on the other end. "Levi, is everything all right over there?" she asked. "Everything's just fine," Levi responded casually, but Bert wasn't convinced. "Our system detected that a computer was activated down below. Did you go into the gorge?" Levi hesitated but denied it. Bert continued, "Then it must have been the watcher from the other tower. You do understand, Levi, that we can never allow our research to be jeopardized." "Yeah, I understand that very well," Levi replied, trying to stay composed, but Bert wasn't fooled. She had already seen everything through the tower's security cameras. The following day, Levi and Rasha were inspecting the machines when they spotted something terrifying, an approaching helicopter. This was alarming because no helicopter had come to this place in over a year. Realizing they were in danger, they immediately ran. Meanwhile, Bert arrived at the tower and reviewed all the footage. She made a cold decision. She ordered drones to eliminate Levi and Rasha. Soon, the drones were deployed, hunting them down. Just as the drones were about to kill them, Levi and Rasha fought back and destroyed their pursuers. They climbed to higher ground and looked back at the tower. That's when Rasha spotted Bert inside. Realizing they had no time to waste, Levi began destroying the signal jammers. One by one, the devices exploded as the bombs he had planted went off. Bert now understood that their entire cover was blown. If the truth came out, everything they had done would be exposed. She made the final call. She ordered a nuclear strike to destroy the entire area in exactly 2 minutes. Then, without hesitation, she and her team boarded a helicopter and fled. Meanwhile, Levi and Rasha were desperately trying to escape, heading 4.2 kilometers away to avoid the blast radius. Rasha managed to get far enough just in time. Then, the nuke hit. A massive explosion engulfed the gorge, shaking the earth with an unimaginable force. The fireball consumed everything in its path. Even Bert's helicopter couldn't escape. It was caught in the explosion, and she perished along with it. On the other hand, Levi wasn't as lucky as Rasha. He hadn't made it far enough. The shockwave struck him, and he was hurled off the cliffside. He plunged into the deep waters below, disappearing into the abyss. Rasha screamed his name, but there was no response. Levi was lost in the depths. Rasha watched the massive explosion from a distance, then turned away and kept moving forward. For the next 5 days, she hid inside a cave, waiting to see if she was infected, but nothing happened. She was safe. With relief, Rasha made her way to France, the place where Levi had promised to meet her. Since they had escaped separately, she clung to the hope that he would show up, but he never came. Sitting alone, she pulled out the letter Levi had once given her. In it, she had written a poem, which she now completed, lost in the memories of the man she had loved and lost. Days passed. To support herself, Rasha started working as a waitress at a restaurant. Then, one day, everything changed. Amidst the busy crowd, her eyes landed on someone familiar. It was Levi. He was alive. Rasha's heart raced with joy. They met again. Just like the first time. Levi smiled. "I know, it took me a while to recover, but I'm here now, and I want to stay with you. I want to work with you." Rasha laughed. "Well, as it happens, there's a chef's position open in the kitchen." Without another word, they shared a passionate kiss, and with that, their story found its perfect ending. The end.